Hello and welcome to the Robotic Enterprise Framework series. No matter what, if you are a newbie or an expert to RPA, the fundamental understanding of the RE framework would help you build robust automations for your client. Not just that, it's also one of the most discussed topics in the interviews. So stay tuned and watch till the end. But before we get started, let's have a look what you'll be learning in this series. We'll first try and understand what is RE framework and why do we even need it. And after that, we'll try and understand the fundamental concepts on which the RE framework has been built, which is the transactional process and the state machines. Once we understand that, then we'll take an example and have a walkthrough into an RE framework and see how it is being built. So without wasting any time, let's first understand what is RE framework. Well, one could think of RE framework as a template built on state machines. So when I say template, then I mean that it provides kind of building blocks so that the programmer does not have to start from scratch and they can reuse the code from RE framework to build any new automations. But apart from the code reusability, the RE framework also provides a very easy exception handling concept. With this, your automation is able to differentiate between a business exception and a system exception and also follow different steps depending on different exceptions. You could also modify this and define your own steps what the bot has to do in case of any different kind of exceptions. Along with an easy exception handling, the RE framework also provides the ability to scale your automation. The scalability is done using transactional processes. This is a concept that we'll be discussing in our coming sessions. And last but not the least, the RE framework itself is a UiPath standard. And this is something which has already been widely accepted by the industry in RPA and becomes even more useful when multiple developers are working on the same project. With this, everyone is following the same standards and using the same language. And because of all these benefits, it really makes sense for every developer to really understand how RE framework works. So now in the coming session, when we look into the example of RE framework, we'll revisit each of these benefits and see how it is implemented in the framework. But for now, let's have a sneak peek into the RE framework itself. So what you see here is a flowchart with 4 states. The very first is the initialization. This is where you initialize all your application. It could be SAP or it could be a web application where you're logging in into the application and seeing if the login works or not. So this is your first state. And once you have logged in and initialized your application, the next step is to get all the transaction data. Maybe now you don't understand what a transaction is, but this is something which will become more clear in the coming sessions. So to get the transaction data, you have a different state here, which is the second state, which you see here. And once you get all the transaction, then you process each transaction within the state which is known as the process transaction. Well, this is also the core of your automation, and this is where most of the automation is being done. Once all the transaction is complete, which is you do not have any transaction data left, then you go to the end process. And within the end process, you're doing nothing but closing all the application and maybe also send an email to the user. So like I said, this was just a sneak peek, and we'll be discussing each of these steps and also understand the concept of state machines and transaction processes. Well, that's all as far as the introduction to RE framework is concerned. And in the coming video, we'll try to understand one of the fundamental concepts of RE framework, which is the transaction processes. We'll see what are the different kind of processes which are available, and then understand why transaction process makes more sense as compared to the other processes. Well, that's all for now. See you again in the next video. Till then, keep automating.